Hello everyone, my name is Justin and welcome back to the channel. Today we will be using computer vision to explore the performance of animal classification AI models. We'll compare with some AI generated images and real world images that I sourced from Google because it's the easiest place to get them. For this demonstration, we are using the imaging tools Crayon and Fellow. Now, for Crayon, I used to create 4 out of the 5 images I would show you, but sadly I would have to get the pro version, which we're not going to do right now. And for Fellow, or Philo, however it is pronounced, we only used it to create the pigeon image. But let's go through the images real quick, and I'll explain why I used some of them. First, we have the AI elephant. Now, the elephant I picked because it is familiar, it's simple, everybody knows it, everybody likes elephants. Same with the grizzly bear. Who doesn't like grizzly bears? They're quite simple. Now, this image, the Komodo dragon, I particularly picked this one because I was curious how the AI would classify it. Would it classify it simply as a lizard, or would it actually see it as what it is, which is the Komodo dragon? Same with the liger. I picked something exotic so that way I could see where the AI's brain is, see how it's thinking, how it's moving. And lastly, I picked a pigeon because pigeon. So with that, let's get started. So the AI models that I used, I searched through 3 of them, but I decided on this one as my final, and I had interesting results from all 3 of them, but I used this to fill out my spreadsheet data. So let's plug in each of the images into this model, and we're going to see what it provides for us. First, we're going to use the elephant. And it categorizes the AI elephant as an elephant with 95% confidence, which makes sense. It's a pretty straightforward picture of an elephant. It's pretty good. Now let's try the grizzly bear. Now the grizzly bear, it classified it as a bear, not necessarily a grizzly bear, but I'm not being too particular about it because potentially the learning mechanism that they used for this AI was only to use just to be a bear, not grizzly bear. So that's fine. Still recognize the root animal of the object. Now let's put the Komodo dragon. Well. What do we have here? The Komodo dragon is only categorized as a lizard, not a Komodo dragon. Now, I know I was very lax, I guess is the word that I could use regarding the bear, because it didn't specify it as a grizzly bear, but the Komodo dragon is only classified as a lizard here, which is a huge difference between a house lizard and a Komodo dragon, as we all know. So this one has 89% confidence, or 90% if you decide to round, but I mark it as incorrect in my book because there's such a massive difference between a Komodo dragon and an actual lizard. Now let's use the liger as the next example. Now, ligers, they are man-bred animals, but they are real. And here it classifies it as a lion with 95% confidence. Now, it could be due to the fact that the facial features of this creature are more lion versus tiger, but we can clearly see that the hind legs, as well as the forelegs and the stripes on the side, of course, are very tiger-like. But it recognizes it as as a lion, which it is clearly not. And as you can see, we marked it incorrect over here. But now, let's look at the AI pigeon, which is our last AI image, and see what it gives us. It gives us a pigeon with 95% confidence. Pretty solid. It's a pigeon. Makes sense. But now let's get to the real images, and this is where things get really interesting in my opinion. So we put a real elephant, 97%. That's pretty good. 97% confidence, and it recognizes it as an elephant. Pretty good. Let's put the grizzly bear. And it's a grizzly bear. It recognizes it with 99% accuracy. Pretty good. If you decide to round, it's at a flat 99%. That's pretty solid. It is a grizzly bear. Let's put the Komodo dragon again. And once again, it classifies it as a lizard. But one thing that I want to note is the fact that its confidence is actually lower than it was for the AI image. The AI image, it classified it as a lizard with 89, or you could round it to 90% accuracy. This one is 87, or you can round it to 88% accuracy, but it's still incorrect because it's not a lizard, it's a Komodo dragon. Now let's put the liger. For the liger, it can't even classify it. It doesn't know how to classify it. And this is a real world liger. This is what ligers look like in real life. As you can see, it has tiger and lion features, but the AI tool can't even classify it, which is exactly why, as I mentioned in the beginning part of this recording, exactly why I picked an exotic animal such as the liger to see how the AI tool would actually react to such a creature. And now lastly, let's put the pigeon. And the pigeon is still a pigeon. With 98%. You round it up 99%. So as I was using this, we can see that based off of the chart here, we can see that the AI images, they were slightly more accurate, and some more than others, slightly more accurate in their confidence scores versus the real world images. And personally, I think that is because the AI images, the generated ones, they probably use certain specific features and tells that most AI models would use to recognize certain animals. For example, let's say the elephant, right? The elephant might use the certain shape of ears that the AI is looking for. That's what it's trained upon. And from there, that's how it recognizes the elephant. Versus the real world image, it may not have that exact symmetry, which is why its confidence is a little bit lower. That's my take on that. Excuse me. Now, I noticed, and as you saw as well, there's consistent error with the Komodo dragon. If I were to bring up both the AI image again, we see his confidence was at 89%, rounded to 90, but it's still classified it as a lizard. Same with the real world version of the Komodo dragon. That is a consistent error that I saw when running this test multiple times. And also, even when I used other tests, I saw a couple other inconsistencies, such as a pigeon was classified as a buffalo and the grizzly bear was classified as a lion. Not in this AI model, but I just saw that in some other models, which kind of leans back into what I was saying previously, how the AIs have probably learned patterns based off of certain symmetries, and when something else is presented that has that same symmetry, it assigns it as that other thing it has learned. Like the grizzly bear with the lion, maybe it used facial structure, maybe it used the snout structure, something that the real world grizzly bear image had that was similar to the training model that was used for that AI model. Excuse me. So yes, I did see some of those consistencies. Now, if I were to try to apply this into some real world applications, personally, I think that these classification models could be used in two ways. Agriculture is one, because it could monitor livestock health and behavior, helping to detect illness or, improving efficiency on the farm. Because if there's this model that can look and see how certain, it could be the legs, it could be the arms, it could be the way that, the walk, the stride. If these models are in place with what is the norm for some of these animals, and then there's one of the animals that's going abnormally, they may be able to detect it, thus helping the farm run better, helping the quality of life for the animals, and so on. And the second thing would be for veterinarians. In using that same livestock example that I mentioned before, if you can catch early that certain, I don't know if we could say like certain illnesses or certain bad habits are seeping into the animals, that might help veterinarians. It may help veterinarians be able to diagnose their patients, being the animals, faster, quicker, and more efficiently. If as soon as a dog or any type of animal is brought in, they're scanned by this AI detection system, they may notice certain physical features which are off on them, maybe a limp, maybe a bulge or something, that would then help the veterinarian diagnose them and work on them in a much faster and more efficient sense. Thank you, and have a great day.